The New Zealand Honey Company has been working with Oritain Global for the past 5 years to help protect them from food fraud. Based at Invermay, Oritain was set up to independently and scientifically verify the authenticity and origin of foods.
Oritain was set up about 6 years ago by a group of people who were concerned about the rising incidence of food fraud and also aware that exporters of New Zealand labelled products were facing these issues when they were working in the international marketplace. So the original team comprised scientists and business people. It's a privately owned business, currently undergoing quite a growth phase as what we do becomes more in demand. When I talk about food fraud, I'm talking about things like mislabelling of products. So, for example, a branded New Zealand product that has a very good reputation, such as New Zealand lamb, for example, in overseas markets, might be used by baddies out there to sort of capitalise on that margin that a New Zealand branded product features. So there's a lot of mislabelling that goes out there. Think of the horse meat scandal, for example. So that's one kind of food fraud. And then also things like dilution, where you take a high value product, such as New Zealand Manuka honey, for example, and then perhaps that product overseas gets watered down with inferior honey from other places, but still marketed as 100% New Zealand Manuka honey. And then there's also adulteration, which is where a compound might be added to a product to change the characteristics of that product. And a good example of that would be the melamine scandal with infant formula. At the moment, we deal with a range of products, all of which have quite high chances of being ripped off overseas. So we work a lot with honey, with meat, with dairy, with seeds, it's an interesting one, and fruit and vegetables.
The principal reason we got involved with Oritain was questions that were coming back from the market as to whether or not the products that not only the supermarkets were stocking on their shelves were true to label, but in actual fact, how could we prove that our honey would be true to label? And so it was really driven from the supermarkets. The process really comes about by, firstly, Oritain doing a wide range of sampling of different honey types right throughout New Zealand. And from that, they develop a fingerprint, which gives them a database that they can then trace the samples of our honey or any honeys that are on shelf anywhere in the world back to the actual origin of production. When honey is delivered to New Zealand Honey Company, every drum of honey that arrives in here to be repackaged into a supermarket product line is sampled, and that sample information is also able to be traced right back to the site of production. And so they know then the actual locality of where every jar of honey comes from, and then that in itself can then be, when it's on supermarket shelf, if there is any questions as to its true origin by either consumer or consumer organisations or by the supermarket chains themselves, that can be then verified through the Oritain testing process.
For each batch of honey that they provide retention samples to Oritain for, we then issue them with a certification for that batch. They have our logo and a certification number printed on the back of their jar, which obviously could get counterfeited as well, replicated. No label or barcode or anything is ever immune to that. But the power of our approach is that we have the data and the samples behind that to back it up. So a consumer could, if they really wanted to, they could test a sample of honey by sending it to us and saying, could you test this against your data set for this client or this country or whatever, and we could provide them with assurance that what they've got is the real deal. In this case, New Zealand Honey, if they had any concerns about the integrity of their supply chain along the way, or if they had a new agent, for example, that they were trying to suss out, they could check up on the integrity of their supply chain at any point, really.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.